Ahmed. In the first appearance, Hadhrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, was permitted the use of sword against sword, as I already explained. In the second, he was not to be permitted like that. So the name Ahmed was most appropriate to be given to the second expression of his religion. And also, when you read some writings of the old Muslim scholars and saintly people, you come to realize that it was also prophesied by earlier saints that the second name of Islam in the latter days would be Ahmadiyyat. Because, for instance, Hazrat Mujaddid Alif Sani, the reformer who appeared at the beginning of the second 1000 years, after 1000 years had passed from the time of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the great saint who appeared in Islam to reform Islam, he is called by the name of Mujaddid Alif Sani, the reformer of the second 1000 years. He says he saw in a vision, and he mentioned it in one of his books, that as prophecy later on, drawing his inference from his vision, he says that a time would come when Muhammadiyat would ascend from this earth, and in its place Ahmadiyyat would be enforced, and the Muhammadiyat would rise to Ahadiyat, that is the unity of God. And the relationship between, the same relationship between, which was once between Muhammad and his master, would now be between Ahmad and his master Muhammad, that is Ahmadiyyat and Muhammadiyat. So in that strange prophecy, obviously it was mentioned that the second name of the community which would appear in Islam, which would be truly representative of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, would be Ahmadiyyat. So Hazrat Masih Maud has himself mentioned these reasons. I don't remember naming very Sani, but he has mentioned the reason why he gave this name to his community. And the fundamental thing is that which I have already mentioned, that this was the second name of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This community was not named after the founder of the community, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, because his name indicates, means he is slave of Ahmad. He is not Ahmad himself. So the Ahmad name belonged originally to Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa, peace be upon him, and it is he who has been referred to in naming the Ahmadiyyat. You follow this? Yes, please.
In a conversation with an Indian, the question came up whether Islam in fact is tolerant to other religions. Was not the Prophet of Islam instructed to purify the house of Allah, and he threw all the 365 gods out of the Kaaba? Then Hadhrat Ibrahim also broke the gods into pieces. Was that religious tolerance?
Yes.
He wants to explain that.
Now, as far as the general teaching of Islam and the Holy Quran is concerned, it's very clear and specific on this subject that you should respect even the false gods of others. Don't call them names either. And not to violate the sanctity of the places of worship of other religions. In Surah Jummah, for instance, where jihad is first permitted, the reason given is exactly the same, that the sanctity of the synagogues and the churches and the places of hermits and the mosques all are to be protected. So as far as the teaching is concerned, it is obviously a universal teaching which finds no exception. Two incidents, as you have already quoted, are exceptional, appear to be exceptional as compared to this teaching. As far as the act of Hadhrat Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in throwing out the so-called gods from Kaaba is concerned, the answer lies in the history of Khana Kaaba, which is of a very, very long duration. So much so that the other end of this history is almost invisible. But the Holy Quran keeps the record and repeats that history. And the Arabs of the time of Hadhrat Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam also did not deny that history. This was the fact which was commonly acceptable among the Arabs, that this was the place and the reason for its construction was this. Now I am mentioning the fact which has been related in the Holy Quran, that inna awwala baytin wudi'a lin-nasi lalladhi bi-Bakkata. This verse indicates that the first house for the glory of God, for the sake of the people or mankind as such, which was ever erected on earth, was this house at Mecca, Hudal lin-Nasi, to give guidance to the whole mankind. And secondly, Hazrat Ibrahim himself raised it once again from the ruins. According to the Holy Quran, for the worship of one and the only God. So if these two facts are true, then this house belonged to the unity of God, and it was never built for the worship of idols. They had no right to be there in the first instance. So if you repatriate something to its rightful owner, you cannot call it subversion or coercion or misappropriation, because these terms do not apply here in these situations. This is why there has been going on debate between various religions, that this place belongs to us and not to you, and this belongs to you and not to us, and so on and so forth, because they go back to history and claim that this is the place which originally belonged to us but was captured later on by you. Now, if you go into this debate, this would be a never-ending debate, and it would have a bad reflection on this issue as well. So, I am going to explain this, the difference between this ordinary debate about the possession of a place by people and between this incident. The fact is that Islam does not give physical possession of Khana Kaaba to any particular people there in that case. It rehabilitates the position of its objective, and that is all. Or artificial, imaginary gods had nothing to do. It's not a case of possession of the Arabs against non-Arabs, or one people against another. It is simply a matter of principle that if a building is built for a particular purpose and objective, and some people have changed those purposes and objectives, should that building be rehabilitated to its original purpose or not? The answer of Islam is, by this demonstration, that yes, it should be rehabilitated. So the present day debate which is going on between various people is not a debate of this issue. It is a completely different debate. A physical possession is sought by some nations as against others, and that cannot be accepted as a principle. Otherwise, the whole geography of the entire world would go to pieces, and it would become such a jigsaw